Imagine two people, same age, same salary, the exact same amount saved for retirement. One is ahead, the other is behind. How is that possible? Because retirement isn't determined by one number. It's determined by the assumptions behind that number. And that's the part most people never see. By the end of this video, you'll know why two respected retirement benchmarks can give different answers for the same person, and which questions actually matter when measuring your own progress. Here's the idea I want you to remember from the very beginning. Two people can have identical savings and completely different retirement outcomes. Not because one got lucky, but because they're following different plans. Let's meet two coworkers. We'll call them Alex and Ben. Both are 40 years old. Both earn similar salaries. Both have saved about the same amount for retirement. If you looked only at their account balances, you'd think they're on exactly the same path. But they're not. Alex owns his home. He plans to keep working until his late 60s because he enjoys his career. Ben took several years away from work earlier in life to care for family. He hopes to retire sooner if possible. Neither choice is better. But they create very different retirement plans. And that's why one retirement benchmark may say Alex is ahead, while another suggests Ben has more work to do. Not because either benchmark is wrong, because they're built on different assumptions. Before we compare those benchmarks, we need to understand one of the biggest factors behind them: how your money is invested. Imagine Alex and Ben save exactly the same amount every year. Neither saves more than the other. The only difference is how they invest. Alex keeps a larger share of his portfolio in stocks. Ben prefers a more balanced mix of stocks and bonds. Years later, their portfolios may look very different, not because one worked harder, not because one saved more, but because different investments have historically produced different combinations of growth and risk. Historically, portfolios with higher stock allocations have delivered higher expected long-term returns. They've also experienced larger market declines along the way. More opportunity has historically come with more volatility. Portfolios with larger bond allocations have generally experienced smaller swings. Historically, they've also produced lower expected long-term returns. That's the trade-off. Professional retirement planning doesn't begin by asking which portfolio earns the highest return. It begins with a better question: which portfolio fits this person's plan? Because investing isn't just about maximizing returns. It's about balancing growth with the ability to stay invested through difficult markets. And that balance changes over time. Someone with decades before retirement usually has more time to recover from market declines. Someone approaching retirement has much less time before withdrawals may begin. That's why many investors gradually reduce stock exposure as retirement approaches. Many target date funds do this automatically through a glide path. Not because stocks suddenly become bad investments, but because protecting against large losses often becomes more important as retirement gets closer. Here's where many investors become confused. They hear that higher stock exposure has historically produced higher returns. Then they assume they should simply own more stocks. But that's only part of the story. The right portfolio isn't determined by history alone. It's determined by history and your own circumstances. That's where Alex and Ben separate again. Alex is comfortable staying invested through large market swings because he expects to work for many more years. Ben wants more stability because retiring earlier is important to him. Same age, similar savings, different plans, and that's exactly why the retirement benchmark that fits Alex may not be the benchmark that fits Ben. Before you decide whether you're ahead or behind, you need to answer one question first. Ahead according to whose assumptions? Now, the story changes again. Alex and Ben have almost identical savings, but they don't have the same retirement plan, and that's because they don't have the same ability to take risk. Here's an important distinction many investors miss. Being comfortable with risk isn't the same as being able to afford it. Financial planners separate those ideas into two concepts: risk tolerance and risk capacity. Risk tolerance is emotional. How do you react when markets fall? Can you stay invested during a major downturn? Or do sharp losses keep you awake at night? Risk capacity is financial. Even if your portfolio drops, does your long-term plan still have enough time to recover? Alex plans to work for many more years. That gives him more time to potentially recover from market declines. Ben hopes to retire earlier. His timeline is shorter. Large losses close to retirement could have a bigger impact on his plan. Neither investor is right. Neither is wrong. Their situations are simply different. And that's exactly why one retirement strategy won't fit everyone. As retirement gets closer, protecting against large losses generally becomes more important because withdrawals may begin before a portfolio has fully recovered. That's one reason many target date funds gradually reduce stock exposure over time through a glide path. The goal isn't to predict the market. It's to better match the portfolio with the investor's stage of life. And once you understand that, the retirement benchmarks start making much more sense. One of the most widely recognized retirement benchmarks comes from Fidelity. You've probably seen these milestones before. By age 30, about 1 times your annual salary. Alex smiles. He reached that milestone early because he started investing soon after beginning his career. Ben didn't. His career break changed the timeline. Neither story is unusual. By age 40, about 3 times your salary. That's where Alex and Ben are today. Their balances look similar, but because their retirement goals are different, that single benchmark doesn't tell the whole story. By age 50, around 6 times your salary. Alex expects to keep working beyond the traditional retirement age. Ben hopes to leave full-time work sooner. The same milestone now serves 2 very different retirement plans. By age 60, about 8 times your salary, and by age 67, roughly 10 times your salary. These milestones are useful, but they're often misunderstood. They're not promises, they're not guarantees, and they're definitely not pass or fail grades. They're planning guidelines built on a common set of assumptions. Those assumptions include consistent saving over many years, continued investment growth, retirement around the assumed age, and Social Security providing part of retirement income. Change those assumptions, and the benchmark may change too. Imagine Alex receives higher Social Security benefits because he continues working longer. Imagine Ben decides to delay retirement by several years. Or suppose either of them changes their savings rate. Suddenly, the same benchmark can lead to a very different outcome. That's why retirement benchmarks should start a conversation, not end one. And this is where many people become confused. They compare Fidelity's milestones with other retirement calculators and assume one of them must be wrong. Usually, they aren't. They're simply answering different questions. One provides age-based planning milestones using a common set of assumptions. Another may place greater emphasis on asset allocation, retirement timing, expected spending, or investment strategy. That's why the smartest question isn't, which benchmark is correct? It's, which benchmark uses assumptions that actually match my life? Because once Alex and Ben understand that, they stop comparing themselves with everyone else, and they start building a retirement plan that actually fits their own future. By this point, Alex and Ben have stopped asking, who's ahead? They're asking a much better question. Which assumptions match my situation? That's the real purpose of retirement benchmarks. Not to predict your future, to help you measure your progress under a specific set of assumptions. Think about the 2 frameworks we've discussed. Fidelity's milestones ask, based on a common retirement plan, are you generally on track? Asset allocation research asks something different. How might different investment strategies influence long-term retirement outcomes? Neither framework is trying to replace the other. They're solving different problems, and neither one can fully evaluate your retirement by itself. Because neither one knows your entire story. They don't know how much you'll spend in retirement, whether you'll receive Social Security, if you'll have a pension, whether your mortgage is already paid off, how much debt you'll carry, or when you actually plan to retire. That's why no benchmark should ever become your finish line. It's a checkpoint, not a verdict. Let's go back to Alex and Ben one final time. On paper, they still look remarkably similar. Same age, similar salary, nearly identical retirement savings. Yet Alex plans to work longer because he enjoys what he does. Ben still hopes to retire earlier after taking time away from work years ago. Those two decisions alone change how useful the same benchmark is for each of them. And that's before we even consider everything else retirement planning has to account for. Healthcare, taxes, housing, guaranteed income, expected spending, investment strategy, eventually withdrawal planning. Those pieces matter just as much as the account balance itself. Life doesn't follow a perfect spreadsheet. Retirement benchmarks often assume steady employment, regular saving, and consistent investing over many decades. Real life is rarely that predictable. People change careers, take time away from work, raise children, care for parents, start businesses, experience layoffs, or simply begin investing later than they hoped. That doesn't automatically mean they're behind. It means their retirement plan should reflect their own circumstances instead of someone else's assumptions. That's why comparing your savings with friends can become misleading. You can see their account balance. You can't see the assumptions behind it. So, how much should you really have saved right now? The honest answer isn't one number. It's whatever keeps you moving toward a retirement plan that's realistic for your life. If you're below one benchmark, it doesn't automatically mean you've failed. If you're above another, it doesn't automatically mean you're finished. Benchmarks are tools, not guarantees, not grades, and not predictions. The goal isn't to perfectly match every retirement calculator you find online. The goal is to understand what those calculators assume and decide whether those assumptions fit your own future. Alex eventually realizes he doesn't need to chase every published milestone. He needs a plan built around his retirement. Ben reaches the same conclusion. Instead of asking, "Am I ahead or behind?" he starts asking, "Is my plan stronger than it was last year?" That's the question that leads to better financial decisions. Because retirement success isn't determined by one balance, one birthday, or one benchmark. It's built over time. Through consistent saving, thoughtful investing, appropriate risk, and regular adjustments as life changes. If there's one idea I hope stays with you after this video, it's this. Don't let a retirement benchmark define your future. Use it as a guide. Learn the assumptions behind it. Adjust it to fit your own circumstances. And keep moving forward. Because the best retirement plan isn't the one that perfectly matches someone else's chart. It's the one that gives you the greatest confidence in your own future. Thanks for watching.